it should be okay. Oh my goodness.
Ah, there he is.
Yeah, so do we have a set? Excuse me.
We're good to go once you're.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why it's being so difficult. Okay, there we go. All right.
Maria, how you doing? Yesterday, yeah, so much fun. Yeah, and I was front or in or did you get kicked out? Oh, you did? You stayed for it?
We're gonna go when you
Well, I hope the vice president appreciates it. Okay, folks, we're going to move on to our next speaker. Before I do so, I just wanted to recognize a couple of people who are here. Hello. Yeah, I know. Yes, you. I'm like Rodney Dangerfield up here, no respect, you know? No respect. No, it's okay.
herding butterflies again?
Do you have any control up here? Once he comes up here, we'll... Thanks, Dave. So many. It's bizarre. Folks, if we can just have everyone take a seat, I guess. A couple people that I just wanted to recognize while we are up here speaking. First is the organizer of this event, Deidre Reynolds. Deidre's out there, still working the door. We appreciate everything that she does for the committee. Also, other person I wanted to point out was Josh Cory, who's a state representative from Manchester, but he's going to be organizing our municipal elections in the fall, our door-to-door campaign, our phone banking. So please, before you leave today, see Josh, give him your information so that we can get you out there helping us knock on doors and get voters out. I didn't recognize elected officials because we have such a tight program, and because when I tried to recognize the folks who are running without a list, I messed that up royally. So I'm going to get a list, and then I will...
Just stand up.
Okay. And so I'll get a list of everybody, and then we'll recognize you after. All right? Thank you. We do have a tight program, a lot of folks, and we're very fortunate to be joined by Senator Cory Booker. We have a bit of a situation going on here at the microphone stand, and I have to apologize to all the speakers because they set it up for my height for the microphone, so it may be a little low, but I think you'll be able to manage. So, Senator Cory Booker.
Good morning, everyone. This is pretty fantastic. First of all, I want to give Dave a big round of applause. It's really one of the hardest jobs with the least amount of recognition for all the work that you do, and I'm just grateful for you. My staff gave me a whole list of people to read off. I'm going to follow your lead and not do that. But I actually don't really want to talk about my policies and my ideas. You all are hearing from all of us. This is like my third trip to your community. First time I came here, I was just blown away. You all got 27 out of 27 reps elected. I just don't think this election is going to turn necessarily on the policies that we all are doing, because you all know this. The differences between us Democrats are so small compared to the differences between us and Donald Trump. And I am one of these people now that wants to just sound the alarm, a little bit of concern that if we are so much as we choose between an array of incredible candidates, some of my closest friends in politics, people I admire, people I've learned from on the debate stage. I mean, I was telling Yang yesterday, he's teaching me about math, for crying out loud. If we start ripping each other down and creating these purity tests, where if somebody doesn't reach 10 out of your 10 boxes that you check, that suddenly they're not good enough, and then when it comes to a general election, we can't unify, we're going to have a real problem in our party. I think one of the themes we have to understand right now is that this election is not a referendum on one guy in one office. It's a referendum on who we are and who we must be to each other. And not just to each other as Democrats. It's really a referendum on the culture of our country. We've seen one person in one office engage in a level of moral vandalism that is an affront not just to Democrats, it's an affront to so many people I meet, folks that are independents, not involved in politics. People are really hurting by what they see, and we see our culture slipping further and further into tribalism, where people hate each other. I hear stories about families that can't even sit at the same table. If we can't get our family units together, if we can't get our neighborhoods, communities to agree on a sense of common purpose and common cause, then our adversaries are going to win. I see the intelligence reports from Russia. I see what they are trying to do to us. They're trying to destroy us from within. They use our social media platforms to try to whip up even more hate between Democrats and Republicans. Any divisions they can exploit, they're going for. I think the best of who we are as a nation has been those in generations past who fought every single time they had an opportunity to put more indivisible back into this one nation under God. And so you're going to hear me talk a lot about policy. Heck, I was up on CNN talking about my climate plan. I was in prime time for Hawaii at the end of that night, talking about real nuances in policy that matter. Whether does nuclear have a role, which, heck, right now it's 50% of our non-carbon energy, and that we should talk about that. Talking about guns, which is, you all know, is an issue that nobody in this campaign has had to deal with like I've had, because people get shot in my neighborhood. And I do believe that gun licensing, which some on our party don't want, is essential. 80% of Americans agree on that. But I want to just be a little different this morning, because you're all going to get a chance over the next 5 months to get to know who I am. And I was laughing at a reporter the other day who said, what about the polling, Cory? What about the polling? I'm like, I'm actually really happy about the polling, because nobody from our party who's gone on to be president since before I was born has ever won who's been polling ahead. You should be asking people a little bit, because the people we elect are these dynamic candidates that were considered long shots at this point. Carter and Bill Clinton. Barack Obama was about 20 points behind Hillary Clinton, behind her in African American voters this far out. We win because Democrats from our party win because they focus on people, on grassroots, on organizing, on connecting to people. And what I want to talk to you is just really try to talk to you right now. Because as a guy who is in politics, not because I'm a Democrat, but because I decided to move into a neighborhood which is one of the most distressed in America, the Central Ward of Newark, New Jersey. I live in a low-income, below-the-poverty line community. The last census said that my neighborhood was $14,000 per household was the income, median income in my neighborhood. And when I moved there in the 90s, it was challenging, it was difficult. And I won my city council seat against the political machine. You all want to talk about who's a fighter in this election? There was literally a documentary made about my career coming up in Newark called Street Fight. It got nominated for an Oscar. Don't applaud me, because then it goes on to the ignominious, the shameful reality that it lost in the Oscars to a movie called March of the Penguins, for crying out loud. I am not as cute as a penguin, I have found out. And what I learned is what you all are demonstrating, and this is what I want to encourage you. I had all the forces arrayed against me. Literally, not only the political forces, I had windows on my car smashed, tires slashed, hate literature going out against me. I was warned, literally warned in my career by a federal judge who was concerned about my safety and security, went out of her way to reach out to me and warn me. In my journey through coming up to become mayor of Newark, I had my phones tapped. I was followed by the police. You watch the movie and you'll understand, but what was the faith that brought me forward was what you all are doing so well. Forget partisan politics for a second. When you connect with people, when you knock on doors, when you talk to them, and not in the language of pundits on TV, but you not only meet them where you are. My mom used to always say to me, Cory, you're going to win your first city council seat because you talk to people. And I'll tell you what, my mom had this saying that she said, who you are is going to speak so loudly, people won't be able to hear what you say. Meet them at their heart, meet them at their spirit. And when our party veers from that, we lose elections. When this election, this presidential election, your elections will not just turn on the head. We need candidates like you that are going to speak to the gut and the heart and the soul of people. Because the best person with the best 15-point policy plan is not the person that wins. If it was, we would have won the last presidential election with a better prepared candidate, better plans, better issues. How are we going to connect to hearts and spirits? And that's why I want to end with an unusual story that you're going to hear from a guy running for president that I hope will govern your thoughts. I know you embody this spirit. I know this is what Dave talks about. I went out and knocked on thousands and thousands of doors when I ran for city council to become the youngest person ever elected. And it was one of the best educations I've ever received. I always say I got my BA from Stanford, but my PhD on the streets of Newark, talking to real folks who taught me that the wisest people in the world are not the ones with the letters after their name necessarily. They're people in the community who know their streets, know their people. And those are the folks I learned how to faith. My opponent in that election got the same amount of votes he always got. He was a machine, like 40 years older than me, been in office since Methuselah. But we beat him because we connected to people and brought out an entirely new electorate. That's what we're going to have to do in these states. So I want to leave you with a story just that so much defines my character and really speaks to some of the learnings I had to do. When I got to Newark, I was a tenants' rights advocate. My career, my whole life has been fighting these issues. This is why my housing policy, I'm so proud of. It's informed by a guy who's been in the trenches fighting for housing rights and the challenges of gentrification for my whole life. And I showed up and met the tenant president in the projects that I would actually move into for about 8 years. These are high-rise, distressed projects, horrible condition, slumlord, straight out of central casting. And this woman, never forget, she just knocked me down to size right away because I showed up, a Yale law student. I said, ma'am, I'm here to help you. And she looks at me like, boy, you need some help. And I'll never forget, she takes me down to Martin Luther King Boulevard and says, tell me what you see. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, what do you see in this neighborhood? And I described what I saw. It's crack house, projects. I described it. She goes, you can't help me. And I go, what are you talking about? She goes, boy, you need to understand, the world you see outside of you is a reflection of what you have inside of you. And if you're one of these people who only looks at my neighborhood and sees problems and darkness and despair, you can't help me. But if you're one of those stubborn people who every time you open your eyes, you see hope and opportunity and love and the face of God, then you can come up and try to help me out. She became one of my great professors. But one of the biggest blessings she ever did is when we started taking on this slumlord who we eventually got convicted in federal court for his crimes in those buildings. The person that she brought in was this elderly man who was the most legendary tenant leader Newark had ever seen. He ran the longest rent strike in Newark history back in the 70s. He took on the federal government. He took on the Federal Housing Authority and won. And when I heard about this guy, this legend, when he comes into the room with me sitting next to Miss Jones, I'm a little underimpressed. He didn't suck the oxygen out of the room. He was no great orator. But what I felt right away was his heart and his spirit, like my mom says, who you are speaks so loudly I can't hear what you say. And our first tenant meeting, he sat in the front in the room. Miss Jones introduced the dignitaries. I was this fancy Yale-trained lawyer, and I'm sitting there. And lines of people came up from the buildings to speak at microphones about their pain, about their hurt, about their fears, about the lack of heat and hot water. And after the first hour, I had everything I needed for the legal documents I wanted to file, but the meeting went on and on and on, and I'm getting a little tired, and yet this guy, Frank Hutchins, just sat there, and every person that got up to that microphone, he looked at them as if they were the first person. I looked in his eyes. By the end of the night, everybody was talking to him, even though he had never said a word. He was like that heat lamp that sits in the corner of a room on a cold day, and everybody's turning toward because that's where they're getting their warmth from. As we walked out, I make a snide comment to him. I say something like, man, that was a long meeting, whatever, and he stops very gently and looks at me and says, Cory, you need to understand, we're not here just to fix the physical buildings. There's trauma here, there's hurt here. We're here to repair community and to be a part of the tightening, the reweaving of the spirit of this community that's been so under assault. Well, Frank was one of the guys, and Miss Jones, to tell me to get into politics. This wasn't what I thought I was going to do with my career, but they eventually said to me, you need to run for Central Ward Councilman. City Hall's corrupt. And I'm like, I'm here to be a lawyer. And they go, no, you're not. You're here to help people. And if you want to help people, the people are telling you what we want you to do. And they said, you don't worry, have faith in us. And they walked me through those buildings that I knocked on. I won in the lowest income areas of one of the lowest income areas of our nation through the public housing, subsidized housing. They vouched for me. Why do I still live in the Central Ward of Newark, New Jersey? Because I will not forget the community that first put their faith in me. Now I have to tell you, Frank's starting to get older. I become a city councilman, mayor, and his health declines. His eyesight eventually went. And I would go visit him, and I knock on the door, he'd open it up, and I go, Frank, it's Cory. And he goes, I see you. And I knew he didn't see me, but that became our thing. Every time I would go see him, he'd go, Cory, I'd go, Frank, it's Cory. He's like, I see you. And Frank, I would take him, as mayor of the city, I would take him grocery shopping, and I would take him out. Where do you want to go, Frank? He'd be like, I want to go to the movies. I'm like, Frank, you can't see the screen. And he'd be like, I want to sit and enjoy a movie, man. And he got older and older, and eventually he ends up in hospice. And I go visit him as he's dying. And I want to tell you how messed up my ego is, because, again, this is my education. I was upset when I would go visit him that one of the greatest tenant activists in America, who kept thousands of people in their homes with heat and hot water, fought for subsidized conditions, it bothered my ego that when I went to go visit him, nobody else was there. And I was like, why aren't there crowds of people, balloons and flowers everywhere? But then I realized this humble man in his last days who looked so at peace, I realized that for him, life is not about celebrity, it is about significance. It's not about popularity, it's about purpose. That to him, it wasn't about how many people show up at your funeral when you die. It's about how many people you show up for while you're living. And so, on the last day that I saw this man alive, this is what I love health professionals, because these nurses and these folks, this is why we need unions, they should be paid more. They're so heroic. And they saw me there regularly, the mayor of the city, and they catered to me and my emotions. And this day they told me, this will probably be the last moments, last time you'll see him alive. And they apologized to me because he had stopped talking. His breath had grown shallow and rapid, and they informed me what to expect. And I walked into his room, and I opened the door, and I said, "Frank, it's Cory." And then I saw him struggling, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but he was struggling to speak. And he forces out, as I get closer to his bed, "I see you." I sat at his bed, and I hugged this man. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And I held him, and I kissed his forehead, and I told him that. I told him we were making massive transformations in Newark at that point, and I said, everything that I'm doing is because of you. And I told him how grateful I was, and held him, but eventually I had to go. I was mayor of the city, I was busy, things to do, and I hugged him one more time, and I said, "Frank, I love you." And then he tries again to force out words, and he says to me, in this just forced, shallow breathing, he says, "I love you." And I walk out of his room, and that was the last time I would see him. I want you all to know, I am in this because of this man's last words to me. If there's anything that can define who he was and what I'm trying to do with my life, and I know for those of you who have elected offices that ain't like running for president. Y'all can't go shopping, it takes you hours. You care about things that nobody talks about on the national news. You're definitely not doing it for the pay, you state reps out there. You are embodying what this country needs. As we get caught up with materialism and celebrity and me-ism, as we have a president that stands up, "Only I can solve these problems," Frank's last words, "I see you. I love you. I see you. I love you." The battle in this election, it goes deeper than partisanship. We're dealing with an impotency of empathy. Children dying in communities like mine in mass shootings that don't even make the news. It's the people I've met who've turned their hurt into heroism, like the man I talked about on the stage yesterday, Brian, who's recovering from addiction but has taken his personal pain and made it a purpose in this country to fight against the scourge of opiate addiction. It's these folks I meet who are senior citizens. Some of y'all in this room, God is attacking your body. But you, every day, you say, as long as there's breath in my lungs and blood in my veins, I will not stop serving others. I see you, I love you. The teacher going back to school that says the most powerful nation in the land says we can't protect our children, so now I have to teach them how to hide and shelter in place. I see you, I love you. The senior citizen who worked all their lives and now is wondering why they're under the poverty line and their social security checks won't go far enough. I see you, I love you. The woman who survived sexual assault, who hasn't even told her husband about what happened, and sees a nation that elevates people to the highest offices in the land and doesn't, just stigmatizes one of the most common forms of violence in our country. I see you, I love you. This election's about a lot of things, but it is a referendum on us. What is the quality of our mercy? How courageous is our empathy? Can we have in our country, in this time of darkness, can we bring the light of a revival of civic grace? I am running for president of the United States, but if anything, being mayor taught me, I had the most powerful office in my city, but being mayor broke me down. And it made me realize that my power doesn't come from a position, it comes from people. It from some communities who are connected and invested. It comes from those repairers of the breaches between us, the weavers in our society. The folks that don't stand around and brag, oh, we are a tolerant nation. We're not called to be for tolerance. It's a cynical state of mind. We're called to love one another because patriotism is love of country, and you cannot love your country unless you love your fellow countrymen and women. And love is not a sentiment. It's not sentimentality. Love is what you all do. It's work, it's sacrifice and struggle. I see you, I love you. I want to finish with this because I've gone this far down the road showing you about my imperfections and the lessons I learned. I'll give you a story to end that I hope makes you smile. I think every one of us in this election can't fall into the seduction of embodying the values of that which we are against. That at the end of the day, my parents taught me, do not complain about the world until you first are doing something about that which you're complaining. My parents challenged me not to point fingers, but to accept responsibility, not to try to find blame, but to be one that stands up and takes that responsibility. And so my final challenge to everyone in this room is just my checking myself. If I'm President of the United States, I'm warning you right now, I'm going to ask for more from you. I am, because I know that this isn't about one person in one office, it's about all of us. I'm going to ask for more from you. And I'm going to come back and demand that we give more and organize more to people already doing it, but I'm telling you, we've got to do more. We've got to awaken up the moral imagination of this country. We've got to expand the moral consciousness of our nation. That's what great leaders do. They activate and ignite the energy and leadership of other people. But great leaders are humble, and they know they must constantly learn. They know that they're not perfect. They're willing to admit mistakes and their struggles. And they know that often by showing vulnerability, that's the greatest courage. That's what Brene Brown teaches. I love her. And so here's my last story of vulnerability. I'm going home. Last night we stopped, I admit to you, I stopped at Burger King. It's horrible. I'm sorry. They got this new vegan burger though, and I justified the apple pie and French fries and vegan burger. It was bad. It was bad. The flesh is weak. And so this is my confession. I'm off the microphone. I'm driving home in Newark. We have lots of these fast food joints. And so I drive into one of these fast food joints to meet the need and get the large fries. And you know, I'm sorry, I'm the guy that believes we should deschedule marijuana on the federal level, but maybe we should schedule those fries because they are very addictive. and so I get my fries from the drive-in window, and I'm driven in Newark by a police officer guy, grew up in the projects, served in the military, came back home, and he's been a police officer, now a detective. He drives me around in Newark, amazing guy, up from the projects in Newark. He drives me around. We often don't need to communicate with each other. When we passed by this fast food restaurant, all he did is look in the rearview mirror, and when I hung my head in shame, he knew to go into that. So now I've got my French fries, and I'm holding them like it's Lord of the Rings, my precious. And then we're about to drive out, and there's a man over with his head in the dumpster, head in the trash can, fishing around, and I know immediately what I have to do. I try to live my values, live my faith. I always say, before you tell me about your religion, show it to me in how you treat other people. And so I roll down the window because I know what my religion says. I think Jesus said something about if you have 2 McDonald's French fries and your neighbor has none. I think that it was a sermon on the McMount, if I have it right. And so I called the guy, hey man, you okay? He tries to wave me off. I go, hey brother, what do you need? He goes, I'm hungry. And so I reached in my bag and I pulled out one of my 2 fries, and I reach out, hey man, take some of my fries. He comes over, he takes the fries, and then he stops and he looks at me. And I know I was working with Mayor Jim on some service projects here. And we know this, that sometimes if you're homeless, socks are gold. And he says to me, hey man, do you have some socks? And I'm like, I don't have any socks. I looked around my car vainly. I go, I don't carry extra socks in my car. I go, sorry, sir, I don't have any socks. And he looked a little disappointed, still happy he had the fries, but I could see he was in pain. And he stepped away from my car, and we started, I looked at Kevin to drive the car, but he doesn't move the car. Instead, he puts it in park, and I'm like, what's going on? And then he reaches between the steering wheel to his shoes, kicks off his shoes, takes off the socks he's wearing, and hands them through the window. Now, let me tell you, I'm the United States Senator. I'm the guy that talks about love and compassion and decency. I'm 3 blocks from my home where I have socks my mom gave me last Christmas I haven't opened yet. But I didn't think to take off the socks on my shoes. I tell you this to say simply this. This election is not about him, it is about us. How creative we're going to be in a moment of moral distress. How imaginative we're going to be in our acts of service and kindness and decency. Because you can't get rid of darkness by cursing it, you got to light a candle. This is an election that will test the power of our love. And I use that word not as a soft word, not as a weak word, but as a powerful word. Being strong doesn't mean you need to be cruel. Being tough doesn't mean you need to be mean. What we need right now is the ferocious love of our ancestors who stood before Bull Connor and dogs, who marched on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the kind of love that brought Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner, black and white, Christian and Jewish, together to stand together. That's what this election is about. I have great ideas. I have strong policy, but you want to know why I'm running? I'm running because I see you and I love you, and I believe more than anything, that's the spirit that this nation is and needs from every office in the land. Thank you very much.
So as I mentioned, we have a full speaking program this morning. Yes. So we're going to keep it rolling here. Thank you, Senator Booker. Yeah, if they just can't make it. Okay, well.
I got my kiss, I'm disgusted.
Well, you know, I get on the mic.
Now Flip it around this way. Sorry, trying to trick you guys out.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Senator, you talked in there about, at the top of your speech, you talked about concerns about Democrats attacking each other, tearing each other apart. Are you
Yes.
concerned that that is what's coming as we get deeper into this race and people try to...
I don't know exactly what's coming, but often you bring into the experiences of today what you experienced yesterday. I watched the kind of people trying to factionalize the Democratic Party going into the last presidential election, and I'm very concerned about that right now. I don't care how you define yourself as a Democrat, but if we can't unify after this, if we can't bring folks together, we will not have the kind of strength we need, not just to beat Donald Trump, but remember, we want to have a wave election, a movement election that helps get rid of Mitch McConnell as a majority leader, that helps take back state legislatures. This is one of those moments where, yeah, we need to, differences are very important in candidates right now. I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about them, I certainly have. But the spirit with which we talk to each other and deal with each other and outline these differences, the spirits with which our camps talk to each other. Yesterday, I made a point of going and trying to cheer on or talk to other volunteers for other candidates and other campaigns. We have to have the right energy so that we can unify after this election and defeat Donald Trump, and even more than that, be able to get the big things done that I and other Democrats, other Americans want to see done.
You said earlier that you're worried about this election being too focused on Donald Trump, one person.
Yes.
Do you worry about the same thing on the debate stage with such a large audience and opportunity for Democrats to talk about issues, only focusing on President Donald Trump? And how are you going to try to distinguish yourself but still make the case for something larger?
Look, I believe very strongly that Democrats are going to win this election not by talking about what we're against, but by talking about what we're for, by inspiring the imagination of our nation about what's possible, what we can do together. And that's the spirit I'm going to bring into this race, and I hope that helps me distinguish myself as more and more people get to know me and what I'm about.
And just quickly, you mentioned labor. Can you just talk about why that's so important to you and earning those endorsements? We've not seen any endorsements yet from big labor.
Well, labor is important to me. Unions are important to me because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for unions. I come from a family where my grandfather got my mom's family out of poverty by getting a union job as a UAW worker on assembly lines in Michigan. And so I know that the decline of unions in this country has dramatically hurt the middle class. And I make no bones about it. If I'm President of the United States, I'm going to be pro-union and fighting every day to expand unions, to stop these assaults on unions, to give unions the rights they need to secure benefits for America.
Could I ask you, ever since you launched this campaign, you've been very much about the spiritual message, about love, kindness, bringing people in. And I'm sure you meet Democratic voters along the way who tell you that that may not be the best way to go forward in this path here. To what extent would you analyze over the last, ever since launching your campaign, folks buying into that message within the Democratic electorate and where that can go from here?
Well, clearly it's working, and we have more endorsements in New Hampshire than any other person running for president. We have more endorsements in Iowa than all the top pollers combined. And when I say endorsements, I'm talking about state legislators, mayors, people who are elected in this country who have the trust of their local communities. It's a really good indicator for what message people are seeking and what they're yearning for. And so we feel very confident where we are in this campaign. It's not dissimilar to where Carter was at this point or where Barack Obama was at this point. They weren't leading in the polls this far out, but they were building kind of the teams and the organizations on the ground to win in the early primary states.
Beyond your campaign, though, overall, it's a Democratic electorate in the sense that you're getting from what folks are looking for.
Yeah, the Democratic electorate has always been about the spirit of decency and kindness and bringing people together. The Democratic Party platform, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, the environment, all these things speak of a spirit that believes in investing in each other and standing up for each other. That's why I'm a Democrat. And I think that ultimately is what works when we have messages that appeal to our higher angels, not the darker corners of our nature.
Former governor and former congressman Mark Sanford announced that he's running for president earlier today. What are your thoughts on the crowded field of Republican contenders for the presidency?
I hope that people do challenge this president, who does not represent the full breadth of the Republican Party. look, I've never been one to want to paint broad brushes and demonize Democrats. I love Americans, and I think no side has a monopoly on good ideas. Now look, Republicans in Congress, Republican leadership in Congress is disastrous and dastardly and doing things that are hurting communities and our economy and us internationally. And I'll fight in those trenches, as I have as a senator. But the Republican Party I've known in New Jersey, the local communities where people identify as Republicans, we have great people on both sides of the aisle, and they should have choices and not have to deal with somebody that Republican after Republican comes to my events, comes to me and says, I'm here because I need an alternative to Donald Trump and somebody that can heal this country and bring us together. So great, let as many people on that side run as possible, and I hope that the anti-democratic things that Trump is trying to do right now to get rid of primaries is absurd, and again speaks to his authoritarian inclinations.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Anna.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I'm writing about it.
Some on the way out. Hey, how are you? New England versus everyone. It hurts, man. As a guy from the New York City area.
We saw you yesterday.
Oh, did you see me today?
Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah, heck yeah. Let me do it for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, this is nice.
Come on in.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you all
to meet
so much.
you.
Really nice to meet you too. Enjoy.
Senator, this is my close friend. She's
Hi, how
National
are
Public
you?
Library.
Oh, yes.
I saw you at Cindy Rosenwald.
Yes, yes.
Why don't we get a picture with
Yeah,
her?
please.
Because we had no, you.
All right.
Because we did that with Obama.
All right. Oh, I like that. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hold on one more time.
Yes. Let me step out and let Carol get one with.
All right.
Yes, yes, get her
1,
one.
2,
Yes.
3.
I will be the one to send the picture.
Thank you so much. All right, have a great week. Think ahead.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing? Oh no, that's fine. These are beautiful.
Yes.
Hi, Charlotte. Nice to meet you.
He has a vegan delight.
What?
Yes.
I'm very excited.
And everybody.
Vegan.
He's a vegan, and
I'm Nicole,
Sorry.
owner of Vegetable Delights. Very nice to meet you.
I'm so excited. May I?
Absolutely. Here. There you go. You're welcome. And then I also have samples of my chocolate maple nut blondie if you'd like to try that as well.
I mean, if you twist my arm, I will.
There you go. You're welcome.
What's your favorite?
What's your most popular?
It depends on the market I'm in.
In Nashua.
Well, this is my first week here.
Oh, well.
So everything's been selling quite well. So I'm
Okay, so I'm going to do a couple, one of these
sure.
and one of these. Can I get you anything? Come on. Oh, you have to go with it.
Yes, yes.
So let me.
I'll be here.
So it'll be $9.50.
Okay. Just give me $10.
Thank you very much.
You got your vegan stuff.
Got my vegan.
Yes, thanks, National Farmers Market.
Yes.
Thank you. Did you want to sample anything?
I should do that.
Okay. Oh, you want to take a picture with me?
And I have Karen, it's here in
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think he'll make it up to my stall.
I think he will. Well, we'll try.
Or are we at the end?
Oh no. We do have to leave around noon. We have about a half an hour.
order some vegan stuff to give away with this label, so I can do that, so let me know.
So it's vegan and gluten-free. That's nothing exciting. I'm gonna move.
I also have a chocolate maple nut blondie too. Would you like to sample that?
Does anybody have a
Last
Are we going to walk faster?
Right along.
I'll tell him. You just tell him. Like, we're going to make a straight shot.
But I want
So it's going to be
also
$9.50.
talk to the voters because it makes an impact.
Yeah, totally.
So,
If we let him,
yes,
he'll
yeah.
talk to every person.
Exactly, exactly. But you know what? That's how we do it.
All right.
All right. So,
Here, real quick.
Yeah, kind of the local grass.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Next,
Good to see you.
next Saturday, I'm going to my 50th high school reunion in New Jersey.
Where?
Lawrence.
Oh my God, no
You know who
Lawrence.
graduated from Lawrenceville?
Who's that?
John Stewart.
I knew he was a Jersey boy. I didn't know
And
he was
that's where he graduated
Yeah.
from.
Come on.
You want to do a selfie?
No, we'll have him do it.
Oh, okay.
All right. Here you go.
There we go. You get
All right. 1, 2, 3.
You see the button?
Yep, I got it.
So I'll be in your backyard.
There's a puppy that wants to say hi.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Good work. You're doing good work.
Cool.
oh, so cute.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's not the heart.
Best of luck, Senator.
Thank you so much.
I'm a Bergen County guy.
What town?
Tenafly.
Oh, I'm an Old Japan guy.
Yeah, right.
Harrington Park. Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Doing a great job.
It's good to see you here.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Take care now.
I have a couple. She does all the This is you want to tell what food you're selling? What the spices you're selling? Come on, buddy, you can do it. You can do it. You don't have to look for mommy.
Come on, man.
you
Just shake
can
my
do
hand
it.
at least.
Yes.
I'm Cory.
Yeah, this is
exciting
Senator Cory Booker, and he's also running for president of the United States. Yes. So you tell him what you're selling here with your mom.
Here we're selling our seasonings, which is located around Africa and mostly the eastern part of the world. So right now we have our Indian, our all-purpose, Sri Lanka, Nigerian, Cameroonian, Ethiopian, and our Cameroonian marinade, along with our chili relishes that are spicy, but are tamed down with those kind of good packaging.
I'm impressed, man. You're a pretty good salesman.
Thank you.
That's impressive for an 18-year-old young man.
Thank you. Good
How
job.
old are you? That's even more impressive. Nice to meet you, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for walking me through it. All right. Hello, Rotary folks.
Cory, how are you,
I'm
sir?
doing very well. Thank
One
you
of
very
our
much.
previous neighbors.
Lata,
We used to
how
say,
are you?
Good, good. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yes, I love
Great
you.
Rotarian.
Yeah, what do you think?
Thank you. I mean, it's a solid one.
All right.
Thank you.
I got pretty eyes.
How's it going?
Really feeling it.
Sounding like crazy today.
So this is what I gave him, the seeds, fenugreek.
Oh my God.
And he grew microgreens, and we were neighbors for the longest time. And now he moved up here. He's bringing a new thing and very innovative.
That's great. So great to meet you. Thank you. As a vegan, I love it.
Thank you. Enjoy the sun.
Okay. Oh, we can go slowly. Okay. You want to get a picture?
Yeah.
Go behind him. I'll take you. This is a great thing.
No.
Thank you.
It's so very different. It is slightly sweet, but it's very floral, but also earthy.
Tell your mom and dad.
I will.
Tell your mom and dad.
I love the 603. Thank you.
And this is another Oh, there's my sister. My sister from Maryland. So we're going to be
I just want to love the office.
And then I voted Democrat, and then I
You're classing you.
How are you? Nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you.
I live in Vancouver now.
Have a good day. Oh, you as well.
Oh, awesome sauce. Wait, you want to meet? Hey, Senator. Sorry. I want you to meet these two voters who are really excited about you.
What I love about New Hampshire.
Yes.
Exactly, too,
You meet everybody on the street.
governors and everyone.
My son's girlfriend. I would love to. Can the two of us get a picture? And we have her engaged.
Oh, that's great.
I saw essential oils down there.
Come on, I'm going to take it.
You're going to take it out? All right. So.
This is awesome. Hey, and that was great last night. It was nice seeing you guys all under one roof. And yes, everybody strong. Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck to me. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for all you do. Hey, and you know what? Don't worry.
I'm one of the blue stars.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it looks so good. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Buy local.
Apple pie fruit spread?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good way to.
Pineapple habanero.
Oh, you're like a little spicy, don't you?
Want to try it?
I will definitely try what you recommend. Yes.
Senator, what is it? Pineapple habanero.
And it is hot.
Is it a honey or a jam?
It's a jam. It's a jam.
Here's the trash.
Oh, thank you. You know, I'm going to buy a bottle. But I'm
I have other samples. I have strawberry, blueberry, raspberry, Christmas.
You know, I'm trying to decide between the apple or the carrot cake. I think I'm going to take an apple. I wonder if I can get on the plane with this.
Yeah, you roll it in your clothing. That's what I'm told. So we have apple butter fruit or apple pie fruit.
Which one would you recommend me to?
They're both good.
They're both good?
One's a little chunkier, probably.
I'll go with the smoother one, the apple. I guess that's the apple butter, right? Do we need a bag? Do I need a bag or no?
I don't need a bag. I can put it right in my purse.
I can give you a bag at the end. I have it. I am in. I sell the essential oils down. Yes, truly essential. Yeah. So So he was here. He said, "You want to walk down market, farmers market? Come see our market."
This is a great farmers market. I've never been to the one in Nashville before.
Really big so
Yeah, it's great.
It's $7, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so more than I was earned.
Just looking for the ones.
This is such a great.
I can put it right in my purse too.
It's coming back.
Yes, I'm happy about that.
It's all local vegetables, local fruit.
Yes.
Local
Spray.
Local people selling local things.
Your name one more time?
Elizabeth.
Cory Booker.
Enjoy.
All right, thank you. Take care now.
Nice to see you. Cory Booker.
Yes, sir.
Nice to see you as well. How's everything?
Look how good this stuff is.
Yes, everything's from scratch. We're out of Mason, New Hampshire. We're called Simple Pleasures.
Wow.
We do have a licensed kitchen. We do everything from scratch here. Can I offer you anything on me?
No, I'm going to take something on me. Now, nothing here is vegan, though. Nothing here is vegan, though. Everything else. So I'm going to buy something. I'm going to buy something from. What do you think? Aaron would like most?
Oh my gosh, I think he just
These
got
whoopie pies look amazing.
Pumpkin as well.
What do you think? I want to give her
I think a pumpkin pie is like a seasonal.
a pumpkin whoopie pie, sir. Yes.
I'd rather
No. I would rather insist. May I please?
Just go fire.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. May I get a picture with you, Ralph?
I would be honored to have a picture with you.
Thank you.
You don't mind if I give you a Oh,
There you are, my
thank you.
friend.
You are just so wonderful.
Hey, enjoy, and I hope everything works out.
Isn't it nice that he was able to stop by? I sell
Absolutely.
essential oils at the end of the
Absolutely.
All right.
Senator.
Could you
Can I do a selfie?
Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, I think I can do a selfie and get some of our
Yeah, he's
products.
very good with selfie.
Oh, good. I'm sure you are.
I want to get a little more of that.
I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Enjoy
you.
it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Primary vote.
Yes, I will.
Yes, thank you, Senator.
Yes.
This is,
Oh, hello.
he is running for city clerk in Ward 3 this time. And so she wanted to take a picture with
Nice to meet you.
their dog. You want want to have a picture?
Yeah.
Pull out your camera. Do a selfie.
Oh, let's do it. You know what? Let's step under here because the light won't mess with us.
I'll send my tippy toes. I'll be right there. Thank you so much. You did well yesterday. You were there.
Oh, you were.
That was awesome.
Thanks. All right. Take care. Hello.
What do you do for fun? He has a question.
What do I do for fun? I love to play sports. I love to.
I bet you basketball.
Basketball is my sport. I play basketball in college and football in college. And then I like to watch movies. Love movies.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite movie?
Not really.
Have you ever seen Percy Jackson? No? Have you ever seen Lego Batman?
Yeah.
You saw Lego Batman?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, well, one of my closest friends on the planet, she was Lego Batgirl.
Oh, nice.
Yes, yeah. So I love that movie. All right. Well, it's nice to meet you. What do you do for fun?
I play basketball. I watch the NBA a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
So how about you and me versus Kobe and LeBron? Who would win?
Kobe and LeBron all day.
Not you and me? Come on, man. You could dunk on LeBron, I'm sure.
Kobe could dunk on me.
Do you really? Okay. Well, we're going to hopefully get one day to prove that contest. Thank you. And who's this, your bodyguard? Is she your muscle? All right. Well, can I meet her? Can I get a photo? Thank you so much. You all take care. Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
I'm trying to legalize pot.
Yes. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you so much for running. I've really appreciated it and your passion over the years and what you've done for Newark.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you so much. How are you? How are you? Al, nice to meet you. Al, nice to meet you too. Doing a great job. It is a long, long trail. Yeah. Still 5 months before we can get to the primary here. So yeah, we're really happy to get it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm getting my
Amazing. It's the whole family deal.
I love it.
So.
Well, this is my kind of place as a vegan.
Yeah. Well, you have cheese too.
That's okay. That's okay.
Lots of fermented
Well, the kimchi, yeah, that's really good. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It's wonderful.
If you want to try anything, let me know.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Come on.
All right. Thank you so much. My little brother is really big supporter. His name is James.
The vegetable research. Because of the.
Oh my God, that would mean the world to him.
Jake, it's Cory Booker. I am so psyched to hear that you are a supporter of mine. I heard it from somebody you know, your sister here. Wishing you all the best, Jake. I hope we get a chance to meet sometime soon, but in the meantime, have a great school year ahead and just wishing you all the best. Take care now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That would mean the world to him.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Hey, how are you? All right.
John, nice to meet you. Oh, thank you very much.
All right.
This is one of our police officers.
Hey, good to know you.
He's here in the market and has a young family.
Right. Well, enjoy. They got some good stuff around.
Yes,
Great
yes, we have a great police department. Our Chief Carrigan, Chief LaPoy, who just retired. Wonderfully
good guys.
connected. Yes.
Good luck to you. Thank you.
Take care.
So
Nice
much.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hey,
I'm Cory.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. This breaks my heart that I'm about to get on an airplane, or else I would take this with me.
Ship it.
I'm a big sauce man. What a beautiful pasta. Did you make this too?
We do. We grow our own produce. All the vegetables we use in our pasta, ravioli.
Oh, wow. Impressive, man. All right, well, thank you for being out.
We're right over in Halls. So next town over.
All right, I'll be up here a lot, so I hope to have some.
Good to see you.
All right. All right. Real pleasure to meet you. David, Cory. Thank you.
Like I got a picture with him. You do have a camera? You don't have a camera. Okay.
My wife.
And this is
No, yeah. I should be able to. Do you have the email address? It's on the card. It's on here? Okay, I'll send you the information and then you can let me know if you guys are available. Okay. All right? All right, great. Thank you.
These are doggy treats?
I have doggy treats.
That's so wonderful.
Senator Booker.
Hello, I'm Diana.
See, he's running for president. So I brought him to see our market because I sell essential oil down there.
Are these the same peanut butter pumpkin balls?
Those are my human version, and then these are the doggy ones.
Buy some of these.
I can hear that.
I'm going to take both of them up here.
Okay.
I'm just holding my ball. My peanut butter.
I can take it. All right, we got it.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That almost made it
Yes,
to my
so good.
camp. So this, you want to take a picture? Yes,
I would love that. May I do
You want
it?
to go with all of you together? You want to do it? Yes. Why don't you do? I'll take it.
Let me see if I can do it myself.
I'll take it.
I did it.
Hey. All right, cool. Thank you.
Scared of everything.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Thank you.
He's running for president.
Yep.
Yes. How are you, sir? Very nice to meet you.
I know. You see the president of Manchester?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Let's take a picture.
What is it?
Yeah.
Hey, no worries.
I'm taking a picture with this little guy.
Can you take a last? Yes, right back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Ethan. Hope we'll be voting for you one day.
Somebody wants to see you.
First of all, this is heaven.
Right?
Jessica, she's the
Awesome. Everything's
owner.
better behind us. Nice to meet you.
Jessica.
Yes.
This is Dr. Beltender, our firebrand, and
Such a pleasure.
Welcome, welcome.
Oh my gosh.
he's vegan. So what can
Nothing.
Nothing,
I'm
but that's
Greek.
okay.
I like butter.
Listen, New Jersey's known for our Greek diners. But you know what? I'm going.
Welcome. We've had a lot of politicians. Not you. You're always welcome to come in and use it privately.
Oh, that's
I use it privately, not.
No, I totally get it.
Do you want a coffee?
You know what?
with
I
almond?
one of these.
And we have almond milk.
Yes.
Because I'm gonna do
Senator,
one of these.
almond milk. Coffee with almond milk?
No, I'm going to pass, but I want to buy one of these for my one of my team members here, who I know like Pumpkin over there. The head of my state operation, Aaron, who's local to the community.
Where's
Aaron,
Aaron?
I'm
I know Aaron.
Aaron, she says she knows you.
Hi. You come in.
Yeah, of course I have.
Yes,
Good
nice
to
to see you.
Yeah.
When I
I was trying to get
Well,
into
I don't know if you're a pumpkin
earlier.
person,
We're gonna swing it.
but I'm
No
getting what I
worries.
would get if I was
What's that?
you. So I'm getting you some pumpkin.
The best thing about going shopping with him is that he hands everything over to me.
I love it. Now, Senator, if you don't mind, everyone I have pictures with, I do nothing with the pictures.
Right.
I mean,
But is it a good luck charm?
they just sit until one day I'll put the pictures up.
Yeah.
But if you don't, can I have a picture? Yeah, I'm gonna actually have Latha send the picture. Latha, can you take the picture and send it to me?
I really want to see your
Do you mind if we go inside?
Amazing. Everything here looks so good.
It's all awesome. Blackberry and raspberry mixed berry bars.
Get the vote.
I'm trying. Don't
Let's get a selfie. can we?
Sure.
Yeah. Come on.
Because it's important. We need to.
Thank you, sir.
How are you? Questions?
There you go.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. Honestly, Senator,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Good luck.
appreciate it.
Besides, New Yorker, grew up in high school in 74th Central Suffolk West. When you were mayor, you did a great job. I loved watching on the news.
Love it. Love it.
Besides, Jess's food is the best.
Yes. Okay, this is.
I'm actually out of Colorado as well. Like,
Okay, turn around. I don't have too much time.
no, let's do this fast. None of us do.
You rock.
All the best.
Okay, still.
I'm cutting store. You need anything, you just let us know.
No, thank you.
And
Very
Lava knows me well.
Both to get him up.
I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I've been
That's
invited
good. You're
everywhere.
about people. How much I owe you for
People.
this?
You're up?
Let me pay for that.
Erin, I'll tap it to you guys when you come in and you have us see stuff.
Yeah. Thanks so much. So good to see you. Yeah.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Sorry. You're welcome. Where are you from?
Thank you. We'll be back.
No worries.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Hi.
This is Michelle.
Kelly.
Kelly.
So
Patty.
beautiful.
Yes. They're all.
Can we take a picture with you?
I would be honored to. You kidding me?
I bet
Individually,
Okay.
group, whatever.
Ready? Come in, You are good. You are very good. Thank you so much. Yeah, very long arm and tall. Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
these things are glorious possibilities. He's Eileen.
Gloria is not here and Elaine is not here
Oh, too bad, too bad. Would you like to?
This is amazing.
Okay.
Beautiful dog. It is such a beautiful dog. I'm gonna let it burn his mountain dog. His name's Jovi. Beautiful. You're my second favorite Jovi after Bon Jovi.
I am a big fan. Good luck. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You got it.
Good luck.
Let me do it. Selfie stick. He's like, oh, that's a toy. No, I got the side.
Oh my God, I just want to meet them. I wish you the best. Good luck. Good luck.
Yes.
Hi, it's me. I saw you yesterday at the convention. Your speech was
Oh,
so great.
thank you for being there. That's
Can we get a photo?
I would be honored, man.
Great, let me just get it.
Let me get it for you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're ready to vote, buddy?
I am.
Okay, registered to vote?
I am registered to vote.
All right, come out and vote.
Yes.
Hello, Senator. Nice to see you.
So this is my sister again, so I want a picture.
Oh yeah, let's get a picture of all of you. Yeah.
Yes. And this is what I'm selling. He teases me as snake oil.
No.
Yes.
Everybody in. All right, Cory on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, 1 second, 1 second. Let me take that.
Do you mind if I give this one as well? Here you go. 1, 2, 3. Thank
And I'm going to get that without the glasses too.
Yes.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Thank you.
You.
I love it. I love that you're out here too.
Yes, this is my way of bringing peace in. This is the
She's my star salesman.
Yes.
There you go.
mosquito repellent, yoga sprays. This is my favorite yoga mist. This is the cucumber, turmeric and aloe vera mix for any skin.
Turmeric
This
also
is
has
for-
antiseptic properties. It
Yes.
has little lacerations.
Well, I want to buy one of these. No, I'm buying. I want to be one of your customers.
There you go.
How much is that?
Oh, here's a picture of it. It's $8.
I can put it on my Facebook.
All right. I don't need change. I'm good.
And I said I will give you a bag.
We'll make change.
No. You don't need to change. Oh, look
So
at this.
there's
Grown
the bag.
locally.
This we went to Jamaica, and that was from Jake's place. That
Oh,
was
I love
Jamaica.
it.
So
Hey, let's do it.
okay, you do it the right way.
So
This is wonderful. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you for your business.
Are you kidding me? I'm proud. I don't want to let that
No.
fly away. All right.
Thank you. Let me finish. Yes.
We have lots to put in it.
All right.
So this is
meet
Are
you.
you retired? No worries.
I'm somewhat retired. I heard you yesterday at the convention.
I'm so grateful.
She's a physical therapist.
Oh, my godmother was as well. Thank you for your healing.
His mother is a speech pathologist.
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Hope we can count on
your voice. Hope I get continues to be heard.
But you can vote.
I can vote. I think, seriously, I think there's a lot of voices that need to be heard. But
Yes.
this is definitely one of them.
Yes, I agree with you. We have great people in this race.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
So this.
I can say hi, but I'm sorry I'm on the other side of the fence.
We're one nation.
But our neighbors, we have great conversation when you talk about human.
Look at this.
And, you know.
We do sample it if you'd like to try it. It's
What
maple
is,
cream.
What is maple cream?
It's 100% maple syrup made into a spread like peanut butter.
Can I try it?
Of course.
He's vegan. There's no cream.
Not yet, but
So we have a great conversation. And very wonderful.
Yes.
At the
It's good.
bottom
There's
of the
no common ground.
human.
It's more that unites us and divides us.
Which way did you check that?
this is my granddaughter. Come on back. He's going to do it.
Because I think that this is
He's trying to make it free.
Oh my gosh.
I could. So my husband makes all of it.
That's amazing. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, I want to buy something. I want to get one of
We'd
these.
be happy to.
All right.
So there's
Can we give you that
that
back?
for you. So
Let me get you the rest of it.
we can give you a political discount.
Because if I can get $1 more. And you can change and pass it on to the next person might become
He spent a lot of money here, I can say, every store.
Take it. My husband makes it.
Thank you so
Enjoy.
much.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you as
Take care.
well. Take care.
Take
And
care.
nice meeting you. Good luck in school this year. All right. Mr. Booker. Yes, sir.
Hi, Jim.
I'm a big fan. Oh, I'm so grateful, sir. Thank you very much.
I don't know who I'm supporting.
That's okay.
I'm supporting a Democrat.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
We have to button them up to be them, you know, if you want to see them on the ticket, we have to vote in the primary.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sir, nice to meet you. Really nice to see you. This is really amazing.
So this
live music too.
All that and live music.
I love that.
Cory, nice to meet you. Awesome. Awesome.
every weekend.
Jose. Of course. He's running for president, so. I know he is. Okay, all right.
Okay.
You want to get a picture with me?
You the band?
Band over here, John.
Hey, Joe. Joe.
Get a photo with everybody?
I'm just gonna hang on to his hand.
Get the bass in here, Johnny. Johnny, get some bass.
Can I? I don't want to pat his tummy, but I gotta pat his tummy.
Let's go first. I can have her here. Everyone are here. Everyone here. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Awesome.
Do you have any of you have a camera that you want to get a picture? I know you want to.
She does.
I can tell.
I'll get a copy.
After, yes, after you don't want to.
Yes. Nice to meet you, sir.
Really nice to meet you as
Isn't it
well.
a beautiful day? Isn't it a beautiful day?
I'm going to get one with just the two of us.
Selfie, nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You all take care.
Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay around for some of the
We'd love to go. Thank you.
Are they yellow cards? Those are so cool.
Thank you. I'll see you all next time.
That's right.
I have a 3L too. Like also very into cars.
Yeah.
Best day. Okay,
Oh,
y'all
yeah,
fine.
love you. Seriously.
Oh, she's sorry.
Come back through. We'll dedicate song.